Hi folks, in this video we get some more practice doing formal proofs in FOL. So pause your videos and see if you can figure out how to justify this conclusion, how many lines this proof takes you. Okay, let's talk about the answer. The first thing that I do when I look at one of these proofs in FOL is I look for the main connectives or the main operators, and I notice that my premises are universal quantifiers, and that makes me happy because I know using universal quantifiers is easy. I'm just going to have to instantiate it for some object or other. So the next thing I do is I scan around the proof and I wonder which name am I going to need in order to instantiate these universal quantifiers. And I notice A is the only name that figures in this entire proof. So that tells me, all right, at least I have a starting plan. I'm going to try out instantiating these for the name A and see if that makes any progress for me. I also notice that my conclusion is a wide scope existential, and that makes me happy too, because I can tell already, I have a plan. If I can prove R holds a property of object A, then I'll know something is R. So I'm going to already look for trying to prove R of A, and then I know I'm going to be done because that's going to allow me to get to my conclusion. All right, let's put this plan into action and see if it works. Well, what I did is I just started instantiating premise number 1 as A, and already I can tell that this is a good idea because now I can do modus ponens on that wide scope arrow that I get. So I'll just do arrow elim there, and now I get a wide scope disjunction. And this tells me again, remember everything that you've learned from the first half of this course. Now that I have a wide scope disjunction, I know a light bulb goes off in my head. I'm going to have to do proof by cases at some point in this proof. So before I jump into that proof by cases, the next thing I did is I followed through on my previous plan. I'm going to keep instantiating these other universal claims for my name A. And the reason is, once I get onto this proof about object A, basically I'm back in propositional logic here. There's no quantifiers in these things. Let me just instantiate the last quantifier too. And this is a really common pattern in proofs in FOL. You're going to have to know how to use the quantifiers to sort of set up the proof and get the thing going. But once you get the proof rolling, it often just turns into a proof from bool or from prop, which is what we have here. Basically, I've got 3 new premises. I've got lines 6, 7, and 8. I've got a disjunction and 2 wide scope arrows. And I know from those things I'm going to have to prove that, that A has property R. So which one should I start using first, the disjunction or the arrows? Well, of course, I should use the disjunction. I'm going to assume P of A, but that's not because I see that line 7 has P of A in the antecedent. Instead, I'm doing it because I'm doing proof by cases and I know this. You can't just decide to use an arrow and assume the antecedent whenever you want. You have something else tells you to put this on line 9, and it's line 6. I'm doing proof by cases. That's how I know what I'm doing. Now, of course, what I'm trying to prove in each case is R of A. I've already known from the outset that this is my plan, this is my goal. So if I can get that, then I'm going to be able to get my conclusion by existential intro. So now that I've gotten the thing that I want in case 1, I'm going to move on and see if I can prove it again in case 2. That just requires using my other arrow. So I'm just doing modus ponens again. Now that I've proved the same sentence in both cases, I can export it. And finally, after I've exported that sentence, now I just do existential intro. So there's the completed proof. Let me tell you, there's one other way you could have done this at the end, and that would be equally good. It would just take 1 extra line. So on line 10, you might have thought R of A is not my final goal. My final goal is exist in X R of X. So I'm going to prove that in case 1, and I'm going to prove that in case 2 too. Let me tell you, if that was your plan, that's great. It would have taken 1 more line, but that's no problem. That would have just been, that in a sense, that's just as good. If you saw that that's a way to get to the conclusion, you can prove the final conclusion in both cases and export that out of the subproofs, then wonderful. That counts as a perfectly good proof too. Okay, thanks.